You know, we use words to describe motion all the time, but in physics, things like speed, velocity, and acceleration, they have really precise and honestly kind of surprising meanings. And to show you what I mean, we're going to start with a little puzzle that seems to completely break the rules of common sense.
Okay, so let's get right into this. Picture the Daytona 500, right? A car just blazes through the entire 500-mile race, hitting speeds way over 160 miles an hour. But then, a physicist comes along and tells you its average velocity for the whole race was 0. How in the world can a car go that fast and that far and end up with a velocity of nothing? It sounds totally impossible, I know, but stick with me, because by the end of this, the answer is going to be crystal clear, and you'll get the really elegant physics behind it.
So how do we crack this puzzle? Well, the very first clue is hiding in two words we all use like they're the same thing, but in physics, they are worlds apart: distance and displacement. Getting the difference here, well, that's the key to everything.
Let's start with the easy one: distance. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the total ground you covered. Think about the odometer in your car. It just keeps adding up the miles, no matter which direction you're pointed. It only cares about the amount, the magnitude, not the direction. That's why physicists call it a scalar quantity. Simple.
Here, let's make this super clear with a quick example. Let's say a guy named James walks 2 kilometers from his house. Then he turns right around and walks those same 2 kilometers back home. So what's his total distance? Easy, right? 2 kilometers out, 2 kilometers back, his total distance is 4 kilometers.
Okay, but now let's talk about displacement. This is where it gets really interesting. See, displacement couldn't care less about the winding path you took. It only cares about one thing: the straight line path from where you started to where you ended. That's it. And because it includes direction, it's what we call a vector.
So let's go back to James for a second. He started at home, and after his little walk, he ended up right back at home. So even though he walked a distance of 4 kilometers, what was his overall change in position? 0. He's exactly where he started. So his displacement is 0 kilometers, and boom, that's the crucial difference.
All right, so we've got distance versus displacement. That's piece number 1 of our puzzle. Now let's just apply that exact same logic to speed and velocity, and you're going to see our race car problems start to make perfect sense. So here's the simplest way to think about it. Speed is just how fast you're going. That's all. Your speedometer tells you your speed. But velocity tells you how fast you're going and in what direction. That little addition, the direction, changes absolutely everything.
And here is where it all clicks together. Just like distance, speed is a scalar. It's just a positive number. You can't have negative speed. But velocity, just like displacement, is a vector. And because it has that direction component, it can be positive, negative, or even 0. It all comes down to your final change in position.
And this brings us right back to our race car. The car travels a huge distance, 500 miles, around that track, which gives it a really high average speed. But where does the race end? Right back at the same start/finish line where it began. So its overall change in position, its displacement, is 0. And since average velocity is calculated using displacement, not distance, well, 0 divided by a few hours is still a big fat 0. Puzzle solved. But of course, in the real world, things don't usually move at a perfectly steady velocity. We're always speeding up, slowing down, turning corners, and all of those changes are captured by one single powerful concept: acceleration.
Now here's the absolute key. Acceleration isn't the change in speed, it's the change in velocity. I can't stress that word enough, because if velocity is a vector that has direction, well then acceleration has to be a vector too, which means, yep, you guessed it, direction matters a lot.
And this is where most people get it wrong. We think acceleration just means speeding up. But in physics, you can actually accelerate in 3 different ways. Number 1 is speeding up, obviously. Number 2 is slowing down, which is just negative acceleration. But number 3, this is the one everyone forgets, just changing direction. So get this, if a car is going around a curve at a perfectly constant 60 miles per hour, it is still accelerating because the direction of its velocity is constantly changing. Pretty cool, right?
So we have distance, displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Let's put all these ideas together now and look at one of the most beautiful and universal examples of motion there is, the law of falling objects. So let's start with a classic physics question. If you drop a heavy hammer and a light little feather at the exact same time from the same height, which one is going to hit the ground first?
Now, here on Earth, the answer's obvious, right? The hammer wins, no contest. But that's only because of air resistance. So what happens if you get rid of the air? Well, back in 1971, we didn't have to imagine. Apollo 15 astronaut David Scott this exact experiment on the moon, where there's no atmosphere. He held out a hammer and a feather, and he dropped them. And sure enough, they fell side by side in perfect sync and hit the lunar dust at the exact same moment.
And that, in a nutshell, is the principle of free fall. Once you take air resistance out of the picture, every single object, doesn't matter if it's a piano, a bowling ball, or a feather, it's going to fall with the exact same constant acceleration.
Here on our home planet, that constant acceleration due to gravity has a specific number we call g. It's about 9.8 meters per second squared.
So what on earth does meters per second squared actually mean? It's way simpler than it sounds. All it means is that for every single second an object is falling, its downward velocity speeds up by 9.8 meters per second. So after 1 second, it's moving at 9.8 meters per second.
Then, after the second ticks by, it's sped up by another 9.8, bringing its total velocity to 19.6 meters per second.
And after 3 seconds, it's rocketing down at 29.4 meters per second. That's what constant acceleration is. It's a steady, predictable increase in velocity, second after second after second.
So let's wrap this all up. It really just comes down to a few key ideas. Remember, distance is the total path you travel, while displacement is just about where you start and where you finish. Speed is simply how fast, but velocity adds that all-important direction. And acceleration, that's any change in velocity, not just speeding up, but slowing down or even just making a turn. That's it. That's the basic language of motion.
So I'll leave you with a final thought. The next time you get up and walk from the couch to the fridge and back, try thinking like a physicist. You definitely traveled a certain distance. But once you're back on that couch, what was your final displacement? Once you start looking for this stuff, you'll see that the language of motion is absolutely everywhere. Thanks for watching.